Welcome back to the Shine Within podcast. Wendy Rose Williams is a past life energy healer who specializes in helping people release energy that no longer serves them, whether it's chronic pain, anxiety, depression, or emotional blocks. By clearing this energy, her clients are empowered to live happier, healthier lives filled with joy and purpose. Wendy's work is deeply inspired by her own profound healing journey, following two near death experiences in 1997, which triggered a spiritual awakening. Her personal breakthroughs from past life regression therapy, including overcoming decades of chronic pain and mobility issues, led her to dedicate her life to helping others achieve similar transformations. Trained by renowned experts like Dr. Brian Weiss and Dr. Michael Newton, Wendy is a certified spiritual teacher, Reiki master, hypnotherapist, and author. She offers a unique blend of past life regression between lives, energy healing, and future life regression to support clients on their paths to wholeness and purpose. Well, that was a lot. That was a mouthful. You do it all, Wendy, don't you?
Whatever the client needs, whatever's, the right tool in the toolkit.
That is amazing. Well, I am so excited to talk to you today. Thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, my pleasure, Gina. I really appreciate getting to spend time with you and be your guest.
Yeah, so Wendy, can you just go ahead and share the story of your two near-death experiences in 1997 and how they shaped your spiritual awakening?
Certainly. So what happened was it was August of 97, and I was newly pregnant and very excited because there'd been years of infertility, two ectopic pregnancies, and we had an 18-month-old toddler. So the day of the first NDE, I was working at home alone, Gina, and I just did not feel right. I just could not settle down that day. And all of a sudden, I had this sense of impending doom. I have never felt anything like that in my life. So I ran in the bathroom thinking something's really wrong. I'm going to be sick. Something's really, really wrong. And when I made it into the bathroom, I looked down at my abdomen because I literally felt like someone had stuck a knife in me. And it felt like all I could think of was, I think an organ just burst. And I remember crying out to God for help as I went down, and I passed out. I was unconscious on the floor at home alone. And the only reason I came to was there was this insistent male voice. And he just kept saying urgently, Wendy, Wendy, you've got to wake up now or you're going to go home. And I knew exactly what he meant was that I was going to die. So I opened my eyes. I was disoriented, lying on my side. And Gina, my entire belief system just changed in that moment because all I could see in the bathroom was these four or five large angels. And there was so much light coming from them. And I could just feel the love and the wisdom and that they were there to help me. And I was just so grateful for that. So he continued and he said, You've got to call for help now, or you just need to call for help. And my response was, I understand, but I can't walk. And so I didn't know how I was going to get to the landline because again, it's 97. We didn't have the cell phone, glued to our back pocket. And his answer was so interesting. It was on multiple levels. And what he said was, you just have to be willing to try. So I managed to get up on my hands and knees. And again, my belief system is just falling away more rapidly than I can process it in the moment because it was like being gently moved, bilocated, flown is the best way, just in that same position. And now I'm in front of the nightstand where the phone is. So I reach up and grab for the phone and manage to get it from still being down on the floor. And I chose to call my husband at work because I knew he worked 5 minutes from home. And I thought, well, if I can get him on the phone, that's going to be the fastest way I can get help. And the miracles were continuing in that moment because I've never reached him at work before immediately like that. And I got him right away. And I give him a lot of credit because all I said was, I need you to drive me to the hospital now. Can you take me to the hospital now? And he said, yes, on my way. And I could hear him just throw the phone down. So I had just enough time to call the OBGYN office. I told them what was happening, just this incredible pain, and that my abdomen was distending, just getting bigger and bigger, and I did not understand why. So they said, that's great. Your husband's on his way. He'll get you here faster than 911 at this point. So stick with that plan. And when you get here, don't try and park the car. We're going to meet you curbside with a wheelchair because we do not want you walking. So that's exactly what happened. And I think it's important, again, to my great good fortune, the OB office was located right at the hospital. So they whisked me up into their office and put me into an ultrasound room and helped me up on the bed. And there, Gina, things got weirder because I'm like looking at the screen. I'm like, why? And I asked the ultrasonographer, is your machine working? Because all I could see was like these black on the screen and like just like it was like moving a little bit. So I thought her machine wasn't working because I've had ultrasounds before and it's amazing how much you can see. And her response was, I'm gonna get the doctor now. So I'm looking at my husband like, this is not good. I don't understand what's going on. She returns very quickly. She's got the doctor with her as well as a nurse midwife. And we're all now like jammed into this tiny, tiny little room. So the doctor adjust the ultrasound machine and he recognizes what's happening and he tells me as kindly as he can but very to the point. He says, Wendy, you've got a major abdominal bleed going on. That's what you're seeing on the screen. That's all blood and it should not be there, and that's why your abdomen is distending so much and that's why you're in so much pain. So we need to admit you to the hospital right now. So someone ran and got a stretcher and took me over and just moved me from the stretcher right into the hospital bed. And I could not get up. I just needed to lie prone. We're trying to get this bleeding to stop. So there's a lot of activity. The doctor's with me. There's several nurses. My husband's there. And one of the nurses asked me if I know my blood type because the doctor's wants to start transfusions. And I said, of course, it's A negative. Everyone should know their blood type. And I think that's such important information. And nowadays, you can have a free, in case of emergency, ICE app. You can just download it, put it on your phone, and if you're ever in a situation where you can't talk, you're disoriented, something's going on, the medics can look at that. They don't need to know your password, and you put that information in, any medication you're taking, any allergies, and that can literally save your life to have that information there. So she goes to the nurse's station to call for blood from the Puget Sound Blood Bank because I was living in Seattle at the time. So it's this regional blood bank, and comes back in a few minutes later, not looking happy. And to our surprise, says, I can't get blood for her. Evidently, there was a train collision a few days ago and they used up all the A negative blood. So this was then part of the decision that we were not rushing into surgery because that had been discussed as well as transferring me downtown. But I chose to stay right where I was. I knew the hospital very well. It was not only my community hospital, but I'd had my ectopic pregnancy surgeries there. I had had my infertility treatment there, and I worked in healthcare. So I knew the fact that they were doing 5,000 births a year meant they were well equipped for OB emergencies like mine. So decided to stay, chose to stay right where I was. So they were able to start transfusing me about 6 hours later. Fortunately, they were able to get borrowed blood from a hospital, another local hospital or something. And I'm being transfused, Gina, but I'm going through it at just an alarming rate. I've also blown through, it tried giving me a Demerol and some other pain relievers, and I'm on morphine. So I am not happy. And I can obviously first trimester of pregnancy, this is not what anyone wants. And I can feel myself walking between worlds is the best way I can describe it. It was very hard to stay conscious, very hard to answer questions. And what concerned me the most about that was, or as time went on, I didn't really care. not my personality at all. I've always been the get it done, figure it out. Oh, that didn't work. We'll do something new. So I'd just never been in a situation like this. So we chose again not to rush into surgery, and to just see if my body could heal itself via transfusion medicine, and just being, getting that to resolve. And I am kind of trying to think, okay, what are the non-essential organs? Appendix, gallbladder. What do I hope this is? And we did what's called wait and watch. And again, very closely monitored, blood work being done several times a day. And we did that for several days. But on the third day, my physician tells me, he says, Wendy, your hematocrit, it's just dropped so low. You're officially bleeding out, meaning we can't transfuse you, fast enough. You just lose it faster than we can pump more blood in. So that's why you're feeling so, spacey, etc. So I understand. So I agreed to have surgery, and I was going to be the first case the next morning. So I'm trying to relax in my hospital room that night after dinner, just trying to visualize the best possible outcome. The minute I have that thought, I pop right out of my body. I leave my body. Evidently, that was my best outcome in that moment. And I remember looking back over my shoulder at my body in the bed and thinking, oh, wow, look at her. She looks like a hot mess. She's whiter than the sheets. And I could feel like my sense of humor coming back. I just felt so much better, so much more alive, because I'm not trapped in this little body that is in so much pain and so scared and bleeding out. And I'm like, oh, wow. And then I'm like, wait, why am I referring to myself in the third person? So I realize I'm in soul form. I'm in my higher self. And I look again at my body and I have another funny thought. I'm like, couldn't they have at least given her a hairbrush? She looks like the wild woman of Borneo. And then I'm very, very detached from the body. I know the body's just this temporary housing for the soul. And all I want to do is follow the white light, because I can see it coming down from the ceiling of my hospital room. It's like a triangle shape, and it's got this magnetic pull to it. So I look one more time at myself in the bed as Wendy and go, she's fine. Very, very blasé. And I just start following the light. So I go up and up and up. And at a certain point, I just stutter to a stop. If you've ever run out of gas in a car, it's that terrible feeling of like, oh no, I don't have any more fuel. And I remember thinking, please don't make me walk through that long tunnel. Again, this was 97, and it's so interesting because I had not read anything about NDEs. I'd not like seen any movies or documentaries. It wasn't so much as part of the public consciousness like it is now. But I evidently knew about the tunnel. And the moment, and that's the way many people go home, to the light, to heaven, whatever the right word is for your belief system, home. And as I have that thought, this beautiful escalator drops in for me, so much light coming off it, no one else on it, it's pristine. So I plop myself on that gratefully, and I get my ride the rest of the way home up to the light. The minute I go to step off the escalator, there's this amazing welcoming committee. I can see the same 4 or 5 angels that were in my bathroom are standing in the background. And in front of them, there's 18 or 20 souls, my soul family, my soul group, those that I just know and love the best. So they all grab me into this big group hug, and I can just feel the unconditional love. Oh my gosh, I could have stayed there forever. And that made me realize we really need to give that to ourselves more and give that to other people more. We're just so starved for it often, in our lifetimes on Earth. And at that point, one of the angels, male angel, speaks, and he welcomes me home, and he says, "Welcome home. We're so glad you're here. You've done nothing wrong. You're welcome to stay. And the moment he said a word, I'm like, oh my gosh, of course, that's Archangel Michael. I am so fortunate that who came and helped me when I was in the bathroom, when I was home alone. I would not have made it otherwise. So it was just easier to recognize him at home. And as he's saying this to me, I'm like, well, why would I leave? I mean, come on. When you're just, getting that unconditional love. But he continues. He says, you're going to need to decide quickly. So let me tell you three things I can share with you. Number one, if you choose to go back, you will have a successful surgery tomorrow and you will fully regain your health. So this is some weight of the world coming off my shoulders because I have been truly concerned about that. Number two, I can tell you that your baby will be born healthy. This is huge, again, because of what I described had been occurring. And so now I'm starting to waffle. I'm like, oh gosh, should I go back to the life I planned? But here, oh my goodness, it's this unconditional love, and you don't want for anything. Oh gosh, what do I do? So number three was the kicker, and because I'm leaning toward going back. And he now tells me, if you choose to go back, your life will be very difficult for many years, most likely, because you're not living your purpose. You're not on your path. I feel terrible. No one wants to hear that. So, of course, I ask him, well, what's my purpose? What should I be doing? What should I not be doing? Tell me, because I want to get this right. And he just gently shakes his head. So it's like, oh boy, no more information there. So I start basically shaking down everybody in my soul family because I'm like, come on, there's got to be a chatty Cathy in the group here. Someone's got to tell me something helpful, but no one will tell me anything. So my energy is just deflating. So they start being really, really silly because laughter is the best medicine in so many ways. So they just put duct tape over their mouth, but they're just like really funny about it and just clowning around. So I start to relax and go, okay, I get it. You're not supposed to tell me, but thank you for thank you for the comic relief. So at that point, Michael asks me, what do you want to do? And the moment he asks me that, all I can see is our toddler's adorable face. But it's not normal size. It like fills my world. It's like top to bottom, side to side. It's all I can see. And I know I'm going to regain my health and I know I'm going to have another healthy baby. And I figured the rest of it, I'm just going to have to figure it out. So when he asked me that question and I can see Tara, our daughter's face, I said, put me back in, coach. I'm ready to play, meaning I was ready to re-engage in life at a deeper level and just really try and figure out that purpose. So Michael just turns me around. Everybody gives me one more group hug. And that time I can feel this amazing energy download coming to me. I'm not sure I would have survived that long surgery the next day because I was so out of energy. So that was just amazing to get that. And then everyone gets into cheerleader mode and they're like, oh, you're so brave. You can do it. Get back in there. So we break off from the embrace and I go back down on the escalator and I'm just smiling and waving and everyone's, just jumping around, cheerleading for me. And the escalator takes me just directly back into the hospital room and I just gently go right back into my body. And then that light just slowly dissipates and goes away. So obviously, I have a successful surgery the next morning. What the physicians found was it was actually my fundus, fundus, which is the aorta at the top of the uterus. That's what had ruptured. So I was correct that's what had happened, and they estimated I lost three-quarters of my blood supply. So very, very fortunate to, live in the times that we do, and that I got that prompt medical assistance with that divine intervention to it. So that's what happened. happened? So what
Oh
questions?
my goodness. Well, first off, thank you for sharing your story. I don't think I've had anybody share their near-death experiences on my show. I think you're the first one. So thank you for sharing, and it touched my heart. I'm just thinking about all these things about, wow, I wanted, my first question is like, well, your spiritual team, did you recognize any of them?
I did. I recognized immediately when I got up to home, up to the light, and I could see that 18 or 20 people. Five of them stood out in the front. All four grandparents were there. And it was not that surprising to see my mom's parents because I'd been really close to them and they had passed on years before. So that wasn't a surprise. But I saw my dad's parents and I immediately knew who they were. And I thought that was interesting because everyone looks the same, Gina. Just all these beautiful, like a beach ball sized orb, just this beautiful, bouncy, it's like a lightning storm with all this energy inside it. Everyone looks the same. And I thought, oh, we so need to get over these crazy artificial divisions we have around race and culture and gender. We're all the same. We're all these beautiful souls. So seeing my dad's parents and recognizing them immediately, I thought was wonderful because they died before I was born. So I didn't meet them in this lifetime, yet I knew exactly who they were. And also, one of my best friends in this lifetime was there front and center, and she is very much alive. So I thought, well, wait a minute. That means that there's absolutely a portion of our energy, of our higher self, our soul. There's a portion of that energy is always at home because I recognized her there, even though she's incarnated, unlike my four grandparents who were all deceased. So that really was interesting, to work that out because I often hear people wondering or worrying about, well, oh my gosh, what if, if I'm understanding reincarnation correctly, and when I pass on and I go home and I want to see my great aunt Edna, she was the most special person to me. What if she's incarnated and I miss her? Well, you're never going to miss reunions because there's always that aspect there.
Right. Yeah, I get curious because for me, I always feel like I'm being spiritually guided, and I always ask my spiritual team, whether it's, angels, ancestors, um,
Yes.
anybody, source itself, God,
Fabulous term because it's just, it's so all encompassing, and your own higher self is just such an important part of that spiritual team too.
Yes. Now, I was going to go ahead and ask you, now, how did your experience lead you to discover the teachings of Dr. Michael Newton's Journey of Souls?
Yes. So what happened was it was about 6 or 7 years later. And at that point, my former husband and I had divorced just very, very peacefully. But Archangel Michael had shared some information with me and let me know that my soul contract with my husband was complete. So, and just various things that were going on. So, that had wrapped up. So that was 6 or 7 years after the near-death experience, and then another 6 or 7 years. So our daughters were now 12 and 14. That was the first time that I had any interest in dating again because I just really focused on the kids and career, and my mother and I were building a home together, a two-family home. So I just all of a sudden it's like, oh, what's missing? Everything's going great in life. I'm like, oh, I'm ready to meet a great guy. And then I'm scratching my head like, I have no idea how to do that. Because it had been 25 years, since I had met my husband. So I asked younger girlfriends who were actively dating and said, hey, how'd you meet your great guy? How'd you meet your fiance, your second husband, whatever. And multiple of them said to me, oh, Wendy, that's easy. You just need to go on match.com. And I said, match dot what? I didn't know what they were saying to me because I didn't know what online dating was. So this was in the year 2010. And so girlfriends helped me put together a profile and take some pictures, and so I did that. And the minute I changed my the distance, because many of the Match and other dating algorithms, they're set up by geography. How far apart are you willing to be from the person you want to meet? The minute I put in 10 miles, this profile came up, Gina, and I could not look away from the screen. I'm like, I know this man. Where do I know this man from? And so I'm reading through the profile, which was very unusual. There was nothing routine or trite about it, but it's like I was two sentences ahead and I knew what it was going to say. And I'm like, what is going on here? And then the last sentence in it was a woman on a spiritual path, particularly one interested in an LBL. We have to meet. So I'm sitting there going, what's an LBL? I don't know what this acronym is, this abbreviation. So I Google it and I asked, because at that point I was in communication with my guides, and I said, okay, show me the right reference. And I found Life Between Lives. Dr. Michael Newton, Journey of Souls, was his first book that he had written. And he had been a psychologist who became a hypnotherapist specializing in past life regression. And he'd created this amazing 4-hour deep spiritual regression called Life Between Lives, where you would take the person back through their present life into the womb, take them back to a past life, and then take them on up to the light, where they would meet with their soul family and they might meet with angels. And is this not sounding like a near-death experience without the trauma? So this was fascinating to me. So I meet my match. It took about 3 weeks for us to meet, which I think was purposeful because it gave me time for the book to arrive from the library. And he and I had just been just emailing each other and texting, and we're trying to figure out, where do I know you from? Where do I know you from? Because he's having the same reaction to me. So we meet for lunch, and I had just finished reading Journey of Souls, and he walked into the restaurant. I got there first. I'm sitting on a little bench in the foyer waiting. And Gina, the minute he opened the door and I could see him start walking toward me, I felt like it was an earthquake. It's like, wow, everything is moving and shifting. And I could hear my guide say, pay attention, nothing is ever going to be the same. So he comes in and he sees me right away, and I can't stand up. I'm just gobsmacked. I'm just like, what is going on here? And it still feels like everything's moving. And he dropped down on one knee and he's just looking in my face and he's like, I know you. I know you. We've got to figure this out. So he helps me up. We go into the restaurant. We're there for 3 hours, just finishing each other's sentences. And there also was this feeling of, we've got to catch up. So if you ever have that feeling with someone, that is very, very likely a soulmate. It's someone you've known before, likely many times before. So by the end of the 3 hours, we'd compared everything we could think of from this lifetime, and we knew we had not met in this lifetime. And we both said at the same time, I know you from multiple past lives. And for me to have this popping out of my mouth, it was so different. I mean, my belief system was just changing so rapidly. And I would learn later I had just met the soulmate with the soul contract to wake me up spiritually, which he did with that combination of introducing me to Journey of Souls and to Michael Newton's work, and just by his mere presence and energy, because I knew him just so, so well. So that's what happened. And that started really getting me on the path. So I knew from the moment I read Journey of Souls that I had to go for a Life Between Lives session. But to qualify for one, you had to first have a past life regression. So when I had first written to this match and asked him about LBL, I said, are you talking about Life Between Lives? Is that the reference? Newton and Journey of Souls? And he's like, yes. He wrote back to me right away. Yes, I'm getting ready to go for my second Life Between Lives. And they have just absolutely, utterly enhanced and upgraded and changed my life. Have you been for, any sessions like this? And I was like, no, but I just ordered the book. And so then I'm like catching up to him. very, very quickly. And I'm just like drinking in all this information he's sharing with me. So a year later, I go for my first past life regression, and he actually drives me to it. And then a year after that, I go for my first life between lives. And Gina, those sessions were so incredible for me. The very first past life regression, and the therapist, I give her a lot of credit because um, I'd read her website carefully and she'd come to me via referral and I'd done research and blah, blah, blah. But as she and I were talking on the phone, she's like, do you have any spiritual practice? Do you meditate? You had any sessions like this before? Do you know how to follow a guided meditation? And I'm like, nope, 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 nope. Like, well, you're not an ideal candidate, but I you've really got a passion for this. So are you willing to just do a 2-hour experiment and we'll just see what happens? I don't know, how you're going to do and what's going to happen. Because I was honest with her. I'm like, MBA since I was 22, very type A lot of anxiety, very controlling, because that's often what we do when we have anxiety. We try and control things. Guess what? It's an illusion. It's not
Yeah.
helping. So I went and had this session, Gina, and I was so, so fortunate because to my surprise and hers, I turned out to be able to really, really relax well and deeply because it was so meant to happen. We cleaned up multiple scenes earlier in this lifetime, and I saw two past lives in a lot of detail. And when she brought me back to full consciousness at about 15 minutes before our 2 hours was up, and I'm just sitting on the side of the couch, and we're talking, and she said, how do you feel? And I was like, oh my gosh, it's like the weight of the world is off my shoulders. I said, I don't feel anxious anymore. I don't see the need for perfectionism. Again, a ridiculous goal, but one that we can often, get on that track for various reasons. And I said, I just feel so happy and so light, yet I also feel more in my body and more grounded. And I didn't know both things were possible at the same time. So I said, get your book out. I want to schedule my LBL because this was back in 2011. So she needed to get her physical calendar. She's like, I don't think my book even goes that far. Well, write in a date because we're gonna pick a date a year from now. And she said, a year from now? I was like, yes, that's what I'm hearing. That's what I'm hearing. That's what my guidance, my intuition is. A year from now, I said, I'm supposed to do something in the meantime or experience some things in the meantime and then come back for the LBL. So that's exactly what happened. And I learned how to meditate in the interim and did have, multiple things that happened to have me then have that successful LBL a year later. But in 2 hours to be able to, clean up so much. And then the LBL, because it was recorded for me. I believe all sessions should be recorded. And I actually typed up both of them, both sessions. And when I typed up the Life Between Lives session at 4 hour deep spiritual regression, I had 65 pages of information I had never known that was going to help me so much in this lifetime. And from there, I went on. So, and these were with both sessions were with the same Michael Newton hypnotherapist. And then I met a Dolores Cannon quantum healing hypnotherapist. So similar, yet there's some important differences too. And I had 3 sessions with her over the next 2 years. And in the third session, she said, you really need to listen to your tape. She said, you're not only at this point like totally fluid as speaking as your higher self and as your guide. She said, you're also you've clearly done this work before because you're telling me as the hypnotherapist what to do. And you're saying, ask her more about this, or you missed that point. Go back to this. She needs more of this, less of that. She said, you're directing the session in a way I've never seen before. So it's like, oh my gosh. So she said, have you considered training for this? And I was like, that is an excellent idea. That's brilliant. Because I would love to be able to help people with this incredible healing modality that has just changed my life and just taken away, such issues and just opened so many doors to me where I'm so much happier and just so much healthier. And I don't think this could have been accomplished any other way for me. So that's what got everything changed. And then within a couple of months, I got the perfect referral, and I did actually start training at that point for hypnotherapy, specifically for past life regression.
That is amazing. And I'm sure you have many success stories. Would you mind sharing one that they've had a
Absolutely.
complete transformation?
Absolutely. I had the neatest gal visit me, and she was a little bit older. She was newly engaged, and she and her fiance wanted to be able to travel. They were probably um, mid to late 60s. I think he was early 70s. And they just really wanted to, have fun and hike and go places. But she had this crippling fear of heights. She had this massive issue with heights. So they couldn't go hiking because, didn't know what terrain was going to be. And she said, I can't take the escalator at an airport. I have to go find the elevator because I'm just petrified. I'm going to fall off and die. And she says, I know it sounds ridiculous, but I don't know what's going on. And it's like, ooh, I think I do know what's going on. So let's do a session. So we did this beautiful session and just led her through this past life that had been pretty idyllic for the first 25 years or so. She was a male and she was out hiking in the woods, and she'd just been having this wonderful day. And she decided to just lay down and take a nap, take a rest. And she was in this beautiful area right by a river. And she just had the bad luck. What happened in that lifetime was she was set on by a gang of thieves, and she had some bags with her, like some saddle bags, and they thought there might be something valuable in them, and they took them from her. They stole them from her. She was a male in that life, and they pushed her off the edge where she was by this river, and she fell to her death in that lifetime. There was the fear of heights. So the minute I said that to her, and she's like, "Oh," and the magical words are, that was then and this is now. Because the soul memory is eternal. So she just when we've got these fears, these phobias that just don't make sense in this lifetime. Yes, it can be from this lifetime. It can be, from preschool days or in utero, that we don't remember because we're so young in this lifetime, or it can be from a past life. And so the minute she's like, oh, that's what happened. She's like, that's not going to happen again. It's like, no, it's not. So and so we just worked it through, and we, took her on up to the light, and she healed, and she forgave the people that had done that. And she walked out with like the biggest smile. And she did get in touch with me later, and she said, my fiance and I, we can travel now. We can live life and really, really enjoy life because I'm able to do the things I wasn't able to do before, and it's not holding him back either. So
Wow, how amazing. It's so interesting because I had my Akashic records read to me, and we're talking about my past lives and different lifetimes. And one of them, I was murdered as a girl at age 15 by, I don't know what happened, but it happened in the dark. And then the lady asked me, are you afraid of the dark? I said, sometimes I don't like to be in the dark rooms. And then
right.
she was explaining this is what had happened to you. And then another timeline, I was in the 1700s. I was a male. I was a shaman. in Costa Rica in a tribe that still exists to this day.
Oh, how
It was
interesting.
interesting, yeah. And then I was like, well, that makes sense because I do massage therapy and I do a lot of healing work as well. I've been doing massage for over 17 years now. And so everything she was saying was just making so much sense and it brought like so much clarity. And I felt like I knew my soul a little bit more. And she
Yes, it's
shared
like
that with
puzzle
me.
pieces. It's like puzzle pieces clicking in. And I think that's really what it's about, Gina. I think you hit the nail on the head that we're just meant to learn more about our soul's journey and appreciate who we've been and are becoming. And I think it just allows us to be more kind and gentle with ourselves as well as with others because we cannot know what someone else's journey is. So but just to know that there's these ways of healing and releasing the energy and just massage therapy, it's such a big deal because it's just getting that out of the tissues and just releasing. And I know many massage therapists are very spiritual, and there's a lot more going on than just the physical massage.
Totally, yes. And sometimes I take on that energy. I'm like, oh no. So I do a little ritual after work and then go in my shower and or even do a dry brush away from the heart and go in the
Yes,
shower. And I just love it's like a nice cleansing. It's like the
yes.
rituals that I have after work and I feel more refreshed.
Yes, exactly. Because and clearing between each client also, absolutely.
Yeah, and if you don't mind sharing a little bit about your book, I know that you're an author.
Certainly. So I've written three books so far. I'm working on four and five, and the most recent is Regression Healing 2. Joe and Marilyn is the name of it. And there's more information about them on my website. But in a nutshell, what this book is, it's a series of past life regression sessions with a client with incredible recall and details about Joe DiMaggio's life. So Joe DiMaggio was the famous baseball player and who was Marilyn Monroe's second husband. And there's also two sessions with a young woman in Europe with, again, just significant recall. And both were having issues from that lifetime. So it was just important that they be able to have these sessions and have that healing and also to get to connect again because there was unfinished business from their short marriage that they had.
Wow. Yeah, I have to check that out. Seems so interesting. Yes, Joe DiMaggio. I was like that. And then Marilyn Monroe. That's right. I was thinking about that. I'm like, they were married. That's right.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
And then your podcast too. Can you share what your podcast is all
Certainly.
about?
The name of it is Waking Up Spiritually, and I co-host it with my friend Greg Kirk. And the reason it's about 4 years old, and the reason we created the podcast is to support people with their experiences in waking up spiritually, because it can be discombobulating, it can be confusing, it can be scary, it can be isolating. People can tell you are nuts when you suddenly start talking about, well, I was speaking with Archangel Michael yesterday, and they're like, okay, get get the psych eval going here. Um, and fortunately, we're living in times where people are there's a broader understanding, and I think people are more tolerant of other beliefs and experiences because people can be having these incredible experiences, near death experiences, spiritually transformative experiences, whatever it might be. So that's why we created Waking Up Spiritually, to just support people on that path. So we help people connect with their guides, understand their past life energy. We talk a lot about energy hygiene. Speaking of, massage therapy, and like you said, like dry brushing and just really cleansing your energy. So helping people know how to clear their energy, ground their energy, hold their boundaries. Just all different topics like that.
That's so awesome. Yeah. So I feel so my husband is more on the religious side than spiritual side, I'd say. And I feel like he and I said, you know what? I feel in my heart that he and I made a contract, and I'm here to help him, guide him into saying, no, this is not just it. Whatever is in the Bible is not just it. It says, do you think this book holds all the information of the whole universe? There's so much more. And so I'm trying to help him expand his thinking and his heart. And he's learning more and more. And he's starting to use verbiage that he never would use before, like intuition, vibration,
Right,
frequency. And
right,
so I'm like, yes, he's getting it. But
right.
anyway, so yeah, it's nice to have that conversation. And I feel like because this is my second marriage.
Mhm.
The first one was, I don't know. We were both addicts and just two unhealthy people, just they do not work. But when I got healthy, that's when I met my husband now. And we're a beautiful blended family. But now I feel like I don't know, I feel so blessed to have him in my life now because
Aw.
he grounds me. It's like when we've known each other already, like for our first time we're talking, like we talked for hours sharing our stories, our life experiences, and it's just so nice to connect that way. And even when his first time when he was trying to put his arm around me like that, I felt that that connection immediately. I felt like
Yes, it feels like home.
it felt like home. That's the perfect phrase.
Yes, it feels like home. Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. That's what it's like when we have the good fortune to, meet those soulmates in that soul family. And what you said is just so powerful because we do attract people at whatever vibrational level we're at. So you went from what was unhealthy and just really, really challenging and really hard. And that's so amazing that you were able to, move through that and then just attract that new wonderful, wonderful partner.
Oh yes, it's wonderful. But if someone is curious about exploring past life regression or even energy healing, what's the first step they can go ahead and take?
Yes, well, the first step they can take is just have a daily spiritual practice, and it does not need to be long or hard. I resisted having one mightily because I thought it had to be meditation and it had to be for an hour a day. So just anything that you do to get that left brain, because oh my goodness, just overworking, overworking, just to get it to just calm down. So, whether it's taking a walk, whether it's taking a wonderful bath, whether it is meditating, you can be combining some of those things, obviously, or it might be journaling, it might be yoga, might be drumming, whatever dance, whatever it is that just makes you happy and just gets your energy more balanced. So, getting you out of that loop of caught up in the left brain, get out of the brain and into our heart and into our body. And just then you can hear that whisper of the soul because it's absolutely there. We can hear our guides, we can just hear God, whatever your belief system is. But when we're so busy, worrying about this and worrying about that and fussing about, oh, I got to do this next and do that. It's like our poor guides are like, oh my gosh, how do I get through all the clutter? So that's why often they'll come through in the dream time.
Mm.
And there's just techniques to be able to understand our dreams, remember the dreams and understand them, because often there's a lot going on there.
Or sometimes I actually heard an answer to a question I had been asking or been pondering about, and I
And you
actually heard
clear
the
audience.
answer, and I was like, "Oh, I don't know if I'm ready for this yet."
Yeah.
And that was the last time that I actually heard anything.
Their audience can scare people, and what it is, we have psychic clairs. That's what it's associated with the third eye, and we all have them, but we have different ones. Are stronger and different. Some people just know things. Like if you think when you really had like just an intuit, you just knew something. You knew someone. You knew something. So some people know. Some people just feel. Some people sense. Some people are very clairaudient. I, like you, I'm very clairaudient, and it never scared me. I knew it was nothing to do with mental illness because people can become, frightened. Is this schizophrenia or something? I'm hearing voices. Well, if you're hearing something that's scary and negative and self-harm, of course you need to get help for that. That can be a mental illness that needs treatment and support. but I was hearing angels and amazing information and help, and yet was able to be very grounded and practical in my daily life. It's never, it's just part of who I am. Some people are very clairvoyant, and they see and they just get these flashes of images that are very helpful and uplifting and just, beautiful information. So it seems like people are often wishing for the clairvoyance. For me, I felt that would be scary. So that's come in kind of last for me. And it's the clairaudience came in for me. But I completely respect what you're saying. And I've definitely heard people say that, ooh, to suddenly be hearing voices, that would scare me.
But now I'm trying to welcome it back. I said, okay, I think
Yes,
I'm ready again. But
yes,
I still haven't heard anything.
exactly.
I'm more, I feel, and then I do have like knowings, and
Mhm.
I've been using my senses a lot more these days, especially when I became sober. Then I'm like, I am tapping into everything.
Yes, because with alcoholism and with drug addiction, et cetera, it's like a numbing. It's like trying to numb out the pain and the discomfort and what's just not working for you. So now this is so perfect. You're doing the opposite, and you can just ask to have, those psychic clairs come in, and they're like muscles. So of course we don't use them perfectly, or like trying to learn how to ride a bicycle. You didn't ride it perfectly, but the more you try, the more you work with it. Just keep your sense of humor, and then it's just going to keep on developing. And there's exercises and there's things you can do. I mean, you can work with a spiritual teacher like me on it. You can Google and like look for things, to work on like that. Or there's circles that you can sit in, to develop those sorts of things. But it's gifts that we all have, and it's just choosing to unwrap the packaging is what you've now done. You've taken the bow off, you're taking off the paper.
Yeah. Oh, well, Wendy, thank you so much for being on my show. How can our listeners go ahead and connect with you to learn more about your work or even book a session with you?
Via my website is the best way to reach me, and it's wendyrosewilliams.com. And there you'll find information how to work together privately. I also offer affordable, fun group sessions. They're via Zoom, and things like how to connect with your guide, what's my life purpose, do some past life work is kind of like a warm up, those sorts of things. You'll find the information about my books and about my podcast there. So it's all at wendyrosewilliams.com.
And I will have all of that in the show notes, of course. But any last words or thoughts you'd like to share?
Just love yourself. Just be kind with yourself and to yourself, and just know that we're all in this together, and it's just going to get easier. I mean, this is just such a pivotal time that we've all chosen to be here with an entire planet really raising its vibration and frequency. So yes, there's some shakeout of some difficult things that are just being left behind, and that's why it looks like on the news like it's the doom and gloom report. Well, you don't need to watch the news. I mean, that's a choice. You can choose where to get your information. So just really tune into what's right for you, and don't be, you know, taking the party line or the dogma. I don't think serves us anymore at this point.
I
Trust
know.
your.
Trust your intuition. And I've unplugged the news, actually the TV.
Yes,
It's a long time ago. I was like,
yes.
I don't need to entertain these. Who knows what they're putting
Program,
out there? That's why it's
programming.
called programming, remote control. They're controlling you remotely. Television, like it's all
Just
an
lowers our.
illusion, like you were saying
It
about
just
everything.
and frequency, it makes it sound like, there's nothing but guns and fires. It just, so
Right?
it-
Uh,
just
uh,
just just know what's right for us. And we live in such an amazing time where we can choose our information.
yes, yes. And then podcasts like yours, tune into that, get some good information,
Exactly.
learn about our spirit.
And just tune into, how does it make you feel? Like, do you feel happy in your heart, or is it making you feel like, oh,
Yeah.
is it, do you feel like your heart opening? and new ideas and new possibilities. And that's, is it expansive or is it like fear and contraction? And then just make your choice from there.
Yes, yes. Well, thank you so much, Wendy. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on my show today, and I just cannot wait to look into your book and then listen to your podcast. Excited about
Oh,
that.
likewise. Thank you for who you are, Gina. And I just really, really appreciate getting to speak with you. So thank you for taking the time.
My pleasure.